So when I was 10 years old, my parents took me to America for the very first time. After 20 hours of flying from Bangkok, we landed in San Francisco. And the very first place that we went was in the hotel, even though we were exhausted. It wasn't the restaurant, even though we were starving. But it was the Golden Gate Bridge. You see, growing up, I've seen the Golden Gate Bridge in movies and TV, but seeing it in real person meant so much more. I later moved to Seattle for high school, and during my senior year, I had the opportunity to plan the senior class trip. And guess where it took us? San Francisco to see the Golden Gate Bridge. But did you know that the Golden Gate Bridge was almost never built? I was surprised myself when I came across this story as a graduate student at the Harvard Kennedy School. The story is quite interesting. As you know, San Francisco is a peninsula surrounded by water on 3 sides. So traveling to and from San Francisco was mainly done by ferries back then. But by the 1930s, the ferries would be so busy and the terminals would be so packed and back up for hours and hours. It was clear, the city needed a bridge. But it was also during the Great Depression. The city had no money to build such big public infrastructure. So the only way for the bridge to be built, the city would need to borrow money from its residents. So community members, young and old, rich and poor, small business owners and big business leaders came together and lent the city money by buying municipal bonds. These very pieces of paper made the construction of the Golden Gate Bridge possible, and it became the world's longest suspension bridge at that time. But the story did not end there for people who invested in the city. Each year, they would get interest back by clipping the coupon, which is located at the bottom of the municipal bonds, and go to the city hall and redeem the interest. And at the maturity of the bond, they would get their whole investment back. So this worked just like a saving account to many San Franciscans that invested in municipal bonds. So people invest these bonds for home mortgage, for educational fund, or as even rainy day funds. And this is just as true as today as it was 80 years ago. Cities across America are still borrowing money through municipal bonds to fund public infrastructure projects, important projects such as school, parks, and transit system, which in turn benefits us back. But what makes municipal bond a little different than other type of investment assets is that municipal bonds, the returns from them are tax-free at both the federal and the state level in many of cases. That is important to know because when comparing the returns on municipal bond, taking into account of this tax exemption benefit, it can be pretty attractive. And it's another way that the government say thank you to the people who invest in municipal bonds. Secondly, investing in municipal bond is relatively safe. Yes, I understand there have been a high-profile default in the past recent years, but looking at the historic data, municipal bonds comparing to corporate bonds, which are bonds issued by corporations, the default rate is significantly lower. And for a city like Boston, which we're in now, with a AAA rated, none of the AAA rated bond has defaulted since the 1970s. So let's just review. Municipal bonds are financial instruments that allow the city to make projects that benefit the community possible. Municipal bonds are tax-free at both state and federal level in many cases, and it has a relatively low default rate. So a lot of people use them to save. Out of curiosity, how many of you here invested in municipal bonds this year? Can you please raise your hand? Oh wow, that's not many hands at all. Why is this the case? Are municipal bonds not being issued or offered by the cities anymore? No, that's not the case. Municipal bonds are actually being issued every single day at a large volume. Let me give you a comparison. In 2015, stocks that are initially publicly offered or IPO'd were $30 billion. But municipal bonds, $400 billion US dollars. Friends, that's more than 10 times the size of new stocks. So why haven't we heard of municipal bonds? How come we are not investing in municipal bonds, which are financially sound investment, as well as the investment objective is probably aligned with most of us? Well, there are several reasons. First, because municipal bonds are not marketed widely. People usually learn about municipal bonds via industry, magazine, or phone calls, which I don't receive, and many of us probably don't receive them. And secondly, municipal bonds are denominated in $5,000. Friends, $5,000. So you need at least $5,000 to invest in one municipal bonds. In a country where an average household earns $50,000, investing 10% of your pre-tax income in one financial asset is not suitable and it's not affordable. So many Americans are priced out from investing in municipal bonds. A couple of decades back, the ownership of municipal bonds among Americans' households were about 4.6%. And it has decreased by almost half. At the same time, the ownership of municipal bonds among the wealthiest, 0.5%. This is not the wealthiest 1%, the wealthiest 0.5%. Increased significantly during the same period of time. But there's one city that wants to turn this trend around. In 2014, the city of Denver needed to raise $12 million to fix its library and plant more trees, among other projects. And it needed to raise $12 million, and it also wanted to involve the community member in this bond raising. City of Denver understood that $5,000 denomination is not affordable to many of its residents. So City of Denver issued what is called mini bonds, which are denominated in $500 increments. On the day that the bonds went on sale, the City of Denver sold out in less than 20 minutes. Friends, the City of Denver raised $12 million in less than half the time you've been sitting in this room. This serves as a testament that if municipal bonds were accessible to the majority of us, we will invest in them. How can we replicate the story of Denver? How can we replicate the story of the Golden Gate Bridge? How can the people and the government come together and work together to invest in our future? While not everyone may want to invest in municipal bonds, but I think that it is an injustice that this very financial instrument that has tax-free return benefit, that benefit the community, are not accessible to many of us. I believe that investing in a place that you love, investing in the place that you work and play, and most importantly, investing in the place that you call home should be easy. For me, that very place is now San Francisco, the home to the Golden Gate Bridge. What is yours? Thank you.